My name is Eleanor Vance, and I'm 32 years old. To everyone in the cramped, gossiping confines of Oakwood Apartments, I am nobody. Worse than nobody. I am a stain. A walking piece of misfortune they can't wait to scrub clean. They call me names: the Downfall, Jinx, and their favorite, the Misfortune Entity. They whisper it when I walk by with my son, Leo, clutching my hand too tightly, his small face already learning the shape of shame. It wasn't always like this. There was a time, a brief, shimmering illusion of a time, when I thought I had everything. His name was Eric. He had a smile that felt like sunshine, and words that tasted like honey. I fell for him with the reckless abandon of a woman who had been sheltered her entire life, a woman who mistook intensity for passion and obsession for love. My father, Eleanor Croft, saw through him instantly. My father isn't just a wealthy man, he is the architect of an empire, the CEO of Croft Global Innovations, a company so vast its tendrils touch every corner of the tech world. Our home wasn't a house, it was a fortress of marble and silence, with staff who moved like ghosts, and a father who, though he loved me deeply, ruled from a distant, glass-walled throne room. He doesn't love you, Eleanor. He loves the idea of you. He loves the polish, the elegance, the way you speak. He sees a prize, not a person, my father had said, his voice calm, but his eyes, the same steel gray as mine, full of a storm I refused to see. I was defiant, blinded by what I believed was love. You're wrong. You're just a snob who can't stand that I've chosen someone without a trust fund. My father, a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, looked truly wounded then, but his love for me was greater than his need to be right. He made one final, desperate plea. If you are determined to walk this path, then we must test him. We must know his heart. You will hide who you are, completely. And so the charade began. I, Eleanor Croft, heiress to one of the largest fortunes in the country, became Eleanor Vance, a simple girl from a modest background. My father hired a kind, bewildered farmer from a village 3 counties over to walk me down the aisle. My wedding dress was off the rack, my bouquet simple wildflowers. Eric's family sneered at the humble affair, but Eric himself, his eyes held a calculated gleam. He saw my good skin, my classic posture, the subtle tells of a life of privilege I couldn't completely erase. I believed he thought my poverty was an act, a ruse by a wealthy family to test him. He played the part of the devoted husband perfectly, waiting for the reveal he was certain would come. It never did. After a year, the mask began to slip. The patience ran out. The expensive gifts and lavish lifestyle he'd expected never materialized. Love curdled into resentment, then into something colder and crueler. The man who once wrote me poetry now wrote lists of my failings. I was a burden, I was boring, I came from nothing, and thus would amount to nothing. He brought his contempt home from his middling sales job every night, and the neighborhood, like a pack of hyenas smelling weakness, followed his lead. If my own husband didn't respect me, why should they? Mrs. Gabble in 4B would accidentally spill her garbage as I passed. The teenagers downstairs would mock my worn-out shoes. Eric's friends would come over, drink our cheap beer, and make loud, pointed comments about gold diggers who found no gold, while I put Leo to bed in our 1-bedroom apartment. The final blow came 6 months ago. Eric came home with the scent of another woman's perfume clinging to his jacket, an expensive, floral scent I could never afford. "It's over, Ellie," he said, not with anger, but with a dismissive boredom that was far worse. You're a dead weight, a black hole of misery. No wonder everyone calls you the Misfortune Entity. You suck the luck right out of a room. He left us with nothing but a stack of unpaid bills and a reputation so tarnished it felt like a physical weight. The abuse from the neighbors intensified. They saw a single mother, abandoned, and treated me as their communal punching bag. I cried every night, but only after Leo had slept. I had taken my father's advice to the extreme, enduring this hellish test long after it had proven his point 1,000 times over. Pride, perhaps, or maybe a profound, devastating shame that kept me from picking up the phone and uttering the 2 words that would end it. I'm sorry. I was broken, but I was also my father's daughter. The change began with a phone call, not from my father, but from Croft Global Innovations. A sleek, embossed invitation addressed to Mrs. Eleanor Vance. It was an invitation to the annual corporate gala, announcing a new CEO and significant promotions. It stated that all employees, from every branch and every level, were required to attend. A strange, formal summons for a woman everyone believed was unemployed. My hands trembled. How did they get my address? Then, my personal phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in years flashed on the screen. My heart hammered against my ribs. I answered. Hello? Enough of the drama, dear daughter. My father's voice was the same, deep, calm, and laced with an authority that could quiet a roaring crowd. It was the voice that had haunted and comforted my dreams. Tears I had held back for years finally broke free. Sobs racked my body, silent and painful. Daddy, I'm so sorry. I was so wrong about everything. I know, Eleanor. I have always known. Now it's time to come home. It's time to be who you were born to be. The test is over. You have passed. You have survived. He paused, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Wear the black dress, the one your mother loved. It's waiting for you in your old suite. The day of the gala arrived. The entire city seemed to buzz with anticipation. Croft Global was the crown jewel of the business world, and the announcement of a new CEO was a monumental news. I knew for a fact that Eric, now desperately job-hopping, and half the residents of Oakwood Apartments who worked in the company's lower echelons would be there, hoping for a glimpse of power, a chance at promotion. I left Leo with a trusted, discreet nanny my father had sent her, and looked at myself in the mirror of my barren apartment. Eleanor Vance, the Misfortune Entity, wore a thrift store dress and a face pale from exhaustion. She took a deep breath, and then she left. I didn't go to the convention center where the gala was being held. I went home, to the Croft estate. The gates swung open silently. Staff I had known since childhood stood waiting with smiles, their eyes warm. In my pristine childhood suite, hanging in a climate-controlled closet, was the dress. A masterpiece of black silk and obsidian beading. It was timeless, powerful, and worth more than everything Eric and I had ever owned. A stylist and makeup artist worked in silence, transforming me. The silence in the grand hall was a living thing, thick and suffocating. It was broken only by the sharp, precise click of my heels on the marble stage as I walked away from the podium. I did not look back. I didn't need to. The image of Eric's face, a frozen mask of catastrophic shock, was already burned into my memory, a trophy I would cherish forever. I moved toward my father, who stood with a pride so profound it made my eyes sting with fresh, happy tears. He opened his arms and I stepped into his embrace, the solid, familiar strength of him, an anchor in the whirlwind I had just unleashed. "I am so proud of you, Eleanor," he murmured into my hair, his voice thick with emotion. "Not for this," he said, gesturing to the opulent room, "but for the strength you found in the darkness. You are ready now. From the corner of my eye, I saw the crowd begin to stir, the spell of shock breaking into a chaotic buzz of whispers. I saw Brenda, the server from 3C, fumble with her tray, a glass of champagne shattering on the floor in a burst of liquid and bubbles. The sound was like a starter's pistol. Security, a team of sharp-eyed professionals who reported to me, began to subtly but firmly usher the stunned audience out. The show was over. The new reality was beginning. My father and I exited through the private wing, leaving the chaos behind. In the serene quiet of the executive lounge, he poured 2 glasses of aged scotch. "What happens now?" he asked, handing me a glass. "Now," I said, the word feeling solid and sure on my tongue, "we get to work." The next few hours were a blur of purposeful action. My first order of business was not a financial report or a corporate strategy. It was a personnel file. I sat behind the vast, polished desk that was now mine, the city's skyline glittering at my back. On the screen was Eric's application for a security guard position. A slow, cold smile touched my lips. I picked up the phone and dialed the head of HR. "Margaret," I said, my voice calm and CEO crisp, "there is an application from an Eric Dawson. You will personally reject it. The reason cited will be lack of fundamental character integrity. And Margaret, ensure that reason is permanently attached to his profile in our global database. He is never to be employed by any entity even loosely affiliated with Croft Global. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear, Miss Croft," Margaret replied, her voice laced with a new, profound respect. I could almost hear the sound of Eric's future slamming shut. No job at Croft Global meant no kingly salary, no envy-inducing benefits. It meant a lifetime of mediocrity, a constant, aching reminder of the kingdom he had so foolishly thrown away. Next, I addressed the building manager, Mr. Hendricks. A few clicks brought up his employment file.
Sound of
his
Eric's
performance
future
reviews were mediocre. His attitude noted as entitled. My father had tolerated him for years out of a sense of inertia. I felt no such compunction.
Mediocrity.
Another
a
call.
constant, aching
Mr. Hendricks
reminder
is
of the
to be
kingdom
reassigned,
he had so
effective
foolishly
immediately.
thrown away.
Offer him a position in the
Next, I
custodial
addressed
services
the building
department
manager,
at our
Mr.
Northern
Hendricks.
Alberta logistics
A quick
warehouse.
search through the employee
If he
database
declines,
confirmed
his employment
names
is
and
terminated.
positions.
No severance.
Brenda was a junior
Revenge,
catering
I was
staff.
learning, was
Another,
best served
Mark,
not with
worked in the
rage,
mailroom.
but with cold
A third,
administrative
Sarah,
finality.
was a low-level
Then
data
I
entry
turned
clerk.
my attention to the others,
I didn't fire
the
them.
neighbors from
That would have
Oakwood
been
Apartments
too easy,
who had
too
made my
quick.
life a living
Instead,
hell.
I enacted
A quick search
different
through the
plan.
employee database confirmed their names and positions. Brenda was a junior catering staff member. Another, Mark, worked in the mailroom. A third, Sarah, was a low-level data entry clerk. I didn't fire them. That would have been too easy, too quick. Instead, I enacted a different plan. I had my new assistant summon them to my office one by one. Brenda was the first to enter, her server's uniform looking even more pathetic under the harsh, expensive lights of my office. She couldn't meet my eyes, her hands trembling as she clutched her skirt. "Brenda," I began, my voice not unkind, but devoid of any warmth. "You spilled your garbage on me on October 12th. You called my son a little nuisance within his earshot on numerous occasions." She flinched, as if I'd struck her. "Miss Croft, Eleanor, I didn't know." "That is precisely the point. You didn't know. You made assumptions based on cruelty, not knowledge. You are being transferred. You will keep your salary and benefits, but you will now be part of our new corporate social responsibility initiative. You will be working full-time at the Sunnydale Women's Shelter, serving meals and cleaning for the women there who have nothing. Consider it a lesson in humility. If you refuse, you are, of course, free to leave." Her face was a mixture of terror and dawning understanding. She had a choice: unemployment or a painful, poignant lesson. She nodded mutely and scurried out. I repeated the process with the others.
The data entry clerk was assigned to digitize ancient, dusty paper archives in the basement. The mailroom worker was reassigned to the loading dock. Their comfortable, invisible jobs were gone, replaced with tedious, humbling work. They would keep their livelihoods, but lose their dignity, forced to marinate in the consequences of their own meanness every single day. It was payback time, and I was the master of ceremonies. As the last one left my office, the door closed, leaving me in a silence that was finally truly peaceful. The sun was setting, casting long golden shadows across the room. The door to my private adjoining suite opened, and my father walked out, holding a sleepy Leo in his arms. "Mommy," Leo mumbled, his eyes wide as he took in the big office. "You're a princess in a castle." I laughed, a real, genuine laugh that felt like it had been waiting years to escape. I took him from my father, holding his small, warm body close. "Something like that, my love." My father looked at me, his gray eyes soft. "You handled that with more grace than I would have mustered. I'm not just your daughter, father. I'm a mother, and I'm done with being a victim." A week later, life had transformed. We were living in the Croft estate. Leo was enrolled in the best private school, and the shadows under my eyes had vanished. I was learning the ropes of the corporation with a ferocious appetite, astounding the old guard board members with an instinct for business my father said I'd inherited from my grandfather. One evening, as I was working late, my assistant buzzed me. "Miss Croft, there is a Mr. Dawson here to see you. He's insistent." Eric. I had been expecting him. "Send him in." He looked diminished. His cheap suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. The confidence that had once been his most attractive feature was gone, replaced with a desperate, cringing energy. "Eleanor, please. You have to understand. I was a fool. I was blind. I love you. I always have. We can be a family again. Think of Leo." His performance was pathetic. There was no remorse, only a calculated greed, more transparent than ever. "You applied for a job as a security guard here, Eric? You thought so little of me that you believed you could work as a servant in my own company? You don't love me. You love the idea of my bank account." The answer is no. To the job, to you, to everything. His face crumpled, then twisted into anger. "You can't do this to me. You're just a woman I pitied, a nobody." I pressed a button on my desk. The door opened, and 2 large security guards entered. "This nobody is having you removed from her property. See him out and ensure he is never allowed in the building again." As they escorted a sputtering, defeated Eric away, I felt no hatred, only a profound, clean sense of closure. The Misfortune Entity had not been a curse I carried, but a power they were too blind to see. I was Eleanor Croft. I had survived their cruelty, and I had returned not for revenge, but for my throne. And I would rule not with an iron fist, but with the hard-won wisdom of a woman who had learned the true value of strength, kindness, and the unshakable power of knowing exactly who you are.